everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Successful Crowdfunding with Sport Northern Ireland webinar. Today, we're going to be looking at crowdfunding as a whole and how it may benefit your sports club or organisation when it comes to raising funding. Also, we're going to be focusing on our extra funding offer. So we're going to be featuring the Sport Northern Ireland Fund. We've got Conleth and Craig here from Sport Northern Ireland to talk you through their wonderful funding opportunity. We've also been joined by Nick, one of our successful project owners, who has accessed funding from Sport Northern Ireland as part of a previous crowdfunding campaign. So they're here to share their expertise, their experience, give you some inspiration, some hints and some tips on how this could work for you and your club and your organisation. Before we get started properly, we have a few little bits of housekeeping just to go through. We've allowed 60 minutes for this session. It does include a Q&A at the end, so please do get thinking about any of those questions that you would like to ask either myself about crowdfunding or our representatives from Sport Northern Ireland or even our project owner, Nick. If you do want to ask any questions, the best place to pop them is into the Q&A box, which you should find along the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You can also use the chat box. Again, that will be located along that bottom toolbar, just to let us know who you are, whereabouts you're joining us from today. You can interact with ourselves and each other in that chat box, so please do make use of it. This is a live session. However, we are recording the whole webinar. So we'll make sure that we send a replay link via email, as well as any useful resources that we share throughout the session to make sure you have everything that you need to start your crowdfunding journey. If you do have any issues with your internet connection, the best thing to do is to exit the whole webinar and then use the registration link, so the email link that you've been sent from Zoom, to join directly back into the live room. You might find that you do lose access to the historical chat, in which case just drop a message and we can keep you up to speed with anything that you might have missed. Now, if you're struggling to see the full slide, hopefully you can see the slide and myself kind of sat next to that or on top of it. If for some reason my image is actually hovering over the slide, then please do use the view option, which should be located in the top right of your screen, and select side by side speaker view, and that will remove me from the slide and you'll be able to see the whole content. Okay, so for some of you here today, and feel free to pop this into the chat box. It'd be great to know what your experience is so we can tailor this session to those that are in the room. For some of you, it might be that crowdfunding is a completely new concept, or it could be that you've actually used other digital fundraising platforms in order to raise money as an individual or for your club or organisation. So Crowdfunder UK is slightly different in the sense that it's a rewards-based crowdfunding platform. What that means is that project owners, such as yourselves, have the ability to offer a benefit of some kind in return for a financial contribution. We'll look in a little bit more detail as to what we think would make great rewards and the kinds of things you can think about when listing them on your page. Ultimately, it's a brilliant way to incentivize people's giving, so it can encourage them to give a little bit more because they're receiving something back for that donation. And also, it's a wonderful way to say thank you to your supporters and connect with your community around you in order to maybe source some of those rewards. When we're talking about rewards, we're talking about products, services, potentially sponsorship offers. What we're not talking about is things like shares in your business or club. That would be something that is for a different platform and not for us here at Crowdfunder UK. However, there are some wonderful things you can offer as rewards, and we've seen some really brilliant and inventive things come through the platform over the years. So in its kind of most simplest form, crowdfunding with us works by essentially setting up a Crowdfunder unique page. So the way that you would do that is to come along to Crowdfunder UK. You'd start an account with us, which is a free account initially. There are fees potentially attached to running a successful campaign. However, when you are just starting out and you want to just set up your information and your project with us, that's completely free to access. You'd need an email address. You'd need a little bit of information about your organisation or your club. What you're going to do is essentially tell your story to your community. So it's a way that you can put your project details, a little bit of information about your club or your organization onto a customer facing or a supporter facing campaign page, which then sits on our website, and you can share that with your networks in order to bring in those donations. You ideally want to funnel all of those donations onto that campaign page. So we really encourage you to make sure that when you're engaging with your supporters, you're signposting them all to your unique campaign page to make those digital donations. I should have mentioned there as well that you are in complete control of the target that you set, and also how long you decide you need to run your project for. All of those kind of mechanisms are completely within your control when you're setting up your project. You can then have a think about any rewards that you would like to add. It's not essential to run a crowdfunding campaign. We know it can be beneficial to add rewards. And for some of our match funding partners, it is a prerequisite in the sense that they would like you to have rewards on that page to really showcase the fact that you are in communication with your community and you're being able to give something back to those supporters that are backing you. You would then also look for any extra funding that you might have been matched with. So these are grant providers that we have partnered with in order to distribute their grant funds or match funds throughout our crowdfunding site and to eligible projects. Our amazing computer system will essentially match you with any of our partners that it thinks is a good fit for you. And that's based on a few questions that you will answer when putting your page together and your account together. And we'll look at that in a bit more detail later. When it comes to rewards, be creative. So think about those people around you that could maybe offer a reward. Ideally, you don't want to be purchasing anything in order to have that as a reward. So think about contacting your local business community. Maybe there's people within the network of the organization itself that have maybe hobbies or skill sets that they could actually utilize and you can put as part of a reward package. We've seen all sorts of wonderful things from signed art prints through to discounts at the local restaurants or local tourist attractions, or maybe even things when it comes to kind of exam time. We've had lecturers and teachers offer up their time to be able to tutor people. So, giving online tutoring and things. So it doesn't have to be somebody who's got a job in that field, or a business. It could be somebody just with a really great skill set that could be utilized as a reward. And then you would go on to launch your project. So you would set that project live on the Crowdfunder UK website. That will generate a unique link, so a project URL. And essentially, it's that link that you will share with your network and with your crowd, signposting everybody to click on that link and go and make a digital donation or, a donation via their card, so debit card, credit card, to your campaign page. Okay, so one thing that we don't necessarily always talk about or think about when we're starting a crowdfunding campaign page, ultimately, you will be thinking about the amount of money you need to raise, and that's going to be your primary goal. However, there are lots of additional benefits that come along with crowdfunding. The first of which is validation. It's a brilliant way to see if there actually is an appetite for what you're trying to achieve. It's very low risk in the sense that you don't need to put any money into this upfront at all. You can really test the water to see if there is an interest in your project that you're hoping to raise money for. That can really help to build validation in your own idea. So once you start getting that positive feedback from your community, that's going to give you a drive to really build upon this and help to kind of give you the confidence to build momentum as well. Having your crowdfunding campaign out there in the world is going to ultimately build awareness around what you're doing. So not only around your project, but maybe around your club or organization, potentially even the sport that you are offering as well. We've seen all sorts of wonderful sports successfully crowdfund, some of which I had never heard of before. So I think it was last year, possibly the year before, we had a korfball team come and raise money. I had never heard of korfball. we managed to get them onto one of our webinars, and the first part of that webinar was, please explain what korfball is, because most people in that room had no idea. However, after running their crowdfunding campaign, speaking with the local community, featuring in their local newspaper, I can assure you that the majority of that town, locally to them, now knows what korfball is, and they've worked with local schools as well and integrating it into the school kind of PE curriculum. So that was wonderful to see. So it can help to create a buzz around what you're doing and help create awareness. Everybody that does donate to a crowdfunding campaign will become an advocate for your project and, again, potentially for your organisation. Ourselves at Crowdfunder, we see loads of different projects come through our platform, some of which really resonate with us as individuals, and we may claim rewards, we may shout about them to our networks, and we might even reach out and contact them to feature on a webinar or maybe in one of our emails that go out to our database. So, I mean, that's a kind of crowdfunder level, but when it comes to your own community and your own crowd, those similar things will be happening. People will start talking about your campaign, your project, the wonderful things that you're doing, and that will help to build organically a really engaged network of people around you. That can lead to some really meaningful connections going forward as well. It could be that that helps to develop positive partnerships going forward, whether that's sponsorships from local businesses, whether that's volunteers coming to help you in order to actually get this project off the ground. So a great way to really engage with that crowd around you. Now, raising money digitally can be maybe something that's very new to people here today, and considering it can maybe feel a bit daunting. We do have lots of wonderful resources available to help teach you the skills that you need in order to do this successfully. So becoming a pro at crowdfunding and raising money in this way does take a few skills, things like networking, things like creating engaging copy and content for your page and for any promotion that you might be doing. We are constantly working to make sure that we have lots of accessible tips, guides, hints, resources, things that you can access in order to teach yourself those skills, which can then be transferred into different areas of your life as well. It could be that this forms part of a fundraising strategy shift with your organization, and all of those skills are going to be really beneficial going forward. And then, of course, that extra funding offer, which we've got Sport Northern Ireland here to talk you through their funding offer. We do work with lots of different partners, so it's really worthwhile having a look to see if there's any extra funding that you could be eligible for. You can apply for more than one fund. We see that happen often, that organisations receive pledges from a group of different funding partners. So do make sure that you're aware of what funding is on offer and whether you might be eligible for one or potentially more than one pot of money. Okay, so interestingly, we often see people wondering whether, crowdfunding for sport or physical activity, is that something which would be a good starting point for crowdfunding? Absolutely. What we have seen time and time again is that crowdfunding for sport, and I use that in terms of promoting physical activity within a community. So that's going to be your traditional sports clubs, but it could be a community organisation or group which is actually delivering physical activity sessions as well. It doesn't just mean your traditional sports club. What we know about these groups of people is 9 times out of 10, you have a ready-made crowd. You have people who are engaging with you either through delivery, so people that are attending your sessions, or you've got committees, you have club members. You already have a crowd at your fingertips in order to engage with, and in order to actually then build upon and encourage them to help grow your network organically. You have a shared passion. There are people around you who are already invested in the project idea because, one, they might benefit from this, and also they're seeing that it's something that they're passionate about and it's growing their ability to engage with it. It's going to benefit them, it's going to benefit the community. Ultimately, it's going to broaden their experience when it comes to participating in that sport or physical activity. The team around you is important. So some people can manage to do this as a solo effort, Wherever possible, we would always recommend that you have others that you could reach out to and delegate to. So that might be somebody within your wider committee or team of volunteers or club members, participants that might have skills within let's say networking. They might be great at writing stories and content. They might be a whiz at social media. They might be brilliant at capturing images or video content. Utilize people's skills around you and develop a bit of a team that you can actually kind of ping ideas to, get feedback from. It really should be a collaborative effort wherever possible. Sports clubs and organisations predominantly are already known within their community, and quite often they are very much a linchpin of their community. It's a place where people gather. It's a place that historically has maybe been there for many, many, many years. So utilise that to your advantage as well. Who uses your space? Who do you have contacts with when it comes to other organisations? Who do you know of influence within the community that can be your kind of lead advocate that can start sharing this for you? The other thing that you can do, which is really exciting, is you may well have the ability to set fundraising challenges or activities. You might have a space that you use. You could bring the community together and do 24-hour dance-a-thon, or a certain amount of steps within a certain amount of time. You potentially have the ability to orchestrate a fundraising challenge and have other people fundraising on your behalf. Now, in terms of your network, reaching out to that ready-made crowd is going to help in many ways. You'll be able to potentially source rewards. You'll be able to put calls to action, such as sharing your campaign with others, obviously making those donations, but rewards are key as well as potentially pushing any fundraising ideas that you have into a wider network and wider community. And that might be schools, colleges, other organizations, business community, team days. Get the local business to bring a team together and come down and play whatever sport it is that you deliver, and have that as a fundraising activity. Now, for some of you, especially with the more kind of traditional club sports, there might be celebrities that have come through the ranks. There could be an alumni that you could reach out to who may be in a prominent position now further on in their career. That could be somebody that could back your campaign, reshare things on social media. Having a little bit of influence behind you can always be a great thing. I wouldn't say it's the magic bullet to make your campaign a success, but it's a wonderful thing to have in your armory and to use at the right time. And then, of course, that community impact. So really champion what it is that you do within your community to engage with them and give positive impact to those around you. Have that as a really strong narrative throughout everything that you're doing, which then resonates with people who might not engage with your sport or your physical activity, but are now aware of the wonderful things that you might do, which could be charity events. You could be hosting community events that people might not even be 100% aware of. So make sure that you're mentioning all of that when you're crowdfunding too. Just a little bit on the numbers then. So with working particularly with sports organisations, so this is just looking at sports-based projects or physical activity-based projects. Over recent years, we've seen more than 6,500 projects come through Crowdfunder UK. They've been supported by over 420,000 supporters now. In terms of the amount that they've managed to raise, and a lot of these are grassroots organisations as well, they've raised more than £36 million of money to go towards their projects, and £11.3 million worth of extra funding. So that grant funding that I mentioned from our sporting partners have been distributed to those clubs, making a huge difference to the amount of money they've been able to raise. Now, somebody who managed to access the Sport Northern Ireland funding from their last round, slightly different fund, but we'll go into the new fund in just a moment, is Nick from the Ballymena Lawn Tennis Club. Nick's here today to tell us all about his wonderful project. And Nick, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for asking me along. Well, we had our project ran last year, just towards the end of the last series of funding that was on offer from Sport NI. So we kind of became aware of the opportunity quite late in the day, and so there was a bit of a panic to get the project up and running. and we probably could have benefited from a little extra lead-in time just to be more prepared. But in the end, we got there, and it was very beneficial experience all around.
How did you find the actual process of kind of running that crowdfunding campaign then? Was it something that was quite new to you, or had you raised money in this way before?
No, we had never done it before, and so it was totally new to us. It was only because we became aware of it through, I think, an Ulster tennis meeting. It was mentioned as a source of funding for tennis clubs. So we thought, well, we are a small club, and we're based, the picture there shows on school courts, so we don't actually have our own facilities, and anything that we offer to our members, actually costs us, because we have to pay extra then for the hours that we're using. We pay the school, and therefore, because we kind of had a community ethos and didn't want to be a club with high membership fees because of our limited scope for actually playing, because we can't use the courts during school hours, etc. We kind of always just bumping along and just about breaking even at the end of each year. So this was actually an opportunity to get some extra funding in that we could maybe then enhance our facilities. We needed a new equipment shed because our old one had literally disintegrated. So, we needed to be able to try and generate those funds.
Amazing. And you did incredibly well. You secured the funding from Sport Northern Ireland. You had great engagement from your community as well. How did you find promoting that campaign and actually engaging with your supporters to bring in those donations? Was that a relatively straightforward process, or did you hit any kind of hurdles with that?
No, I wouldn't say it was straightforward. We do have somebody, you mentioned, using the skill sets that you have amongst your members. So we have somebody who's very into the social media aspect. So he really let the members know, that this was coming up. And then, we started it off with a table quiz, and the school were able to offer the facilities there free of charge in their sixth form centre to host that. So that kind of gave an opportunity to get a lot of people in one room at the same time and tell them that the project was coming up. So, they knew it was coming, and we were kind of just getting it all put in place in quite a rushed basis, as I said, because it was coming to an end. And so we really just learnt as we went and tried to engage everybody as much as possible.
And that's really key, I think, is we talk a lot about this being digital, but actually face-to-face conversations and speaking to people in person is still really important. So being able to bring everyone together and let them know, this is coming, watch this space, I think is a really brilliant starting point. In terms of post crowdfunding, so as you mentioned, this was last year. Have you been able to see the benefits of raising the money? Have you been able to kind of roll out your project delivery, spend the money essentially? And how are you doing now as an organization, as a club?
Yeah, well, one of the elements within it was to advance skills. And from that point of view, we had limited number of coaches available to, teach the people who were wanting to improve their tennis. So what we actually set out to do as part of our project was offer free tuition within local schools, and we offered that primarily to children with special educational needs. So we went actually to the different schools within our area, 7 or 8 different schools, and gave free tuition. And the schools really appreciated that, because they said, those pupils with special educational needs, really benefited very much from the physical activity. And, we were very fortunate that we got really good weather for the 6-week period, because those were mostly outdoor based activities. And, very positive feedback from the schools, and some of them have even been in touch this year to say, were we coming back? But we weren't really in a position to come back. This year the weather was absolutely awful, so it would have been terrible. But we would certainly consider it and like to do it again.
Amazing. And it's so lovely to get that feedback. That leads me on to my next question, actually. In terms of those added benefits that I've mentioned earlier on in the session, in terms of things like maybe more awareness around what you do, or more kind of partnerships, or maybe increased membership, have you seen any of those added benefits as part of running a crowdfunding campaign? It sounds as if there's a bit of a partnership there with the schools, which is brilliant.
Yeah, well, that's definitely the case. And we went to them, so that actually didn't cost us, because if we are at the moment in a position where we have a lot of young people who would actually like to join the club, but we don't have the court space available to let everybody who's on our waiting list join. So we've kind of done taster sessions and things like that, but not full membership. So definitely there is an increased awareness. And one of the things you mentioned in your introduction that you would encourage was the use of rewards as part of your project page. So certainly we have built, new relationships with businesses who offered rewards when we were running our campaign. And, I would have no second thoughts about doing another project. If there's a new Sport NI campaign about to launch.
That's always good to hear. We love it when project owners are very happy to be doing this again at some point, and we would always, support you back through the process if you were to come back and crowdfund again. Nick, thank you so much for talking us through your experience. Would you be happy to stay on the call for the Q&A in case some questions come through about your experience?
Yeah, no problem.
Fabulous. And I'll make sure that I share a link as well to your project when we send out this replay, so people can take a look, get some inspiration from your project page and the types of rewards as well that you had, because they had some brilliant ones on there. Thank you so much, Nick, and we shall see you a little bit later on.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on then, let's actually focus on the fund itself. So Conleth Donnelly is here from Sport Northern Ireland to talk us through the kind of funding opportunity that Sport NI have at the moment, the decisions behind, I guess, partnering with Crowdfunder and actually working in this way. Conleth, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Zoe.
Over to you.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to this webinar between Crowdfunder and Sport NI, and this partnership has been going a couple of years now. It took us a while getting this project over the line, but we've got here and it's open for applications now. So we are currently in the process. I think it's week 3 or week 4 of getting applications in and reviewing them and working with clubs and organisations to get them over the line in terms of their projects. My colleague Craig Connor, who'll come on in the slide next, will talk just through the day-to-day stuff, and any queries or questions you have, we can take it at the end. But strategically, from a Sport Northern Ireland point of view, our corporate plan is called the Power of Sport, and this aligns to it over the next 3 years. We're just talking this prior to the meeting, that one of the things that I would advocate for clubs is, here, if you have a project idea and you're just not sure, maybe at the minute it's ready, don't rush it. We have committed to 3 years lottery funding for this program. So if you think you're maybe just not ready now, maybe wait till after April next year. But if you are ready now, you're more than welcome. And I see a few messages coming through the chat bar that people involved previously and people or organisations involved previously and organisations new to the process, where my staff team's here to help everybody through that process, and lift the phone at any time or email or whatever, and we'll try and help our best. But just to end up with a boring bit strategically, Sport and I have 2 corporate outcomes, and one of them is about increasing participation in sport and physical activity. And this fits really, really well with that corporate outcome. And the more projects we get across the line helps the wider societal health benefits as well, like obesity, mental health, all that type of stuff. So I think Zoe already mentioned it. We might use the word sport an awful lot, and sport is very important, but physical activity is also very important as part of this process. So Zoe, I'm going to hand over to Craig just there, if you could join us.
Hi, Craig. Thank you. Craig's going to talk us through what's actually on offer as part of the Creating Opportunities Fund. So thank you, Conleth, and over to you, Craig.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Again, it's great to be back working in partnership with Crowdfunder after the very successful Activate project we launched. Just to recap on how successful Activate was, we had basically a grant of 645,000, and that returned almost 1.6 million raised in total. So again, the Activate was focusing on building back better after post-COVID. And as Conor has just said there, this new fund is focusing on trying to level the playing field. And with this fund, we are quite similar to Activate. So Nick, again, get your application in as soon as possible. You've been there and done it before. We're offering match funding up to 50% to a maximum of £5,000. And again, the eligible sort of organizations we have are sports clubs, charities, community groups, voluntary groups, and also PTAs. Those are the main organizations that can apply.
Amazing. Thank you, Craig. Are you able to, and yourself and Conleth, sorry, able to hang on for the Q&A, because there may well be some questions coming through about the fund itself. I know you've been active in the chat box, answering a few people as they've popped their questions in there. It'd be great to have you as part of that discussion as well, if possible.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep.
Fabulous. Thank you. We shall see you a little bit later on. So really exciting opportunity there for anybody thinking about raising money at the moment and might need a little bit of assistance there with funding from Sport NI. Do take a look at their fund on our extra funding page. And again, I'll make sure I share that with you so you can look at the full criteria and terms and conditions. In terms of actually applying for those funds, when you set up a Crowdfunder account and start inputting your information about your organizational structure, whereabouts you are, your type of project that you're hoping to deliver, you will have a whole section dedicated to extra funding. Within this, there's lots of very easy to answer tick box exercises where you will let our computer system know what your project aims are, the areas of the community that you're hoping to work with in terms of demographics, and then also potential outcomes. And as Conleth mentioned, sport, of course, is what we're talking about today. That does encompass physical activity. So you'd be thinking about your project aims being things like increasing physical activity. Along with that comes wonderful kind of ripple effect benefits. So that's going to increase people's mental well-being. That may well tackle isolation. That may well be working with vulnerable sectors of the community as well. So think about all of those wonderful things that actually taking part in physical activity can do in terms of a positive impact on members of the community, and make sure that you're ticking as many of those as are relevant for your particular project. That will then allow our system to match you with any of our partners that we think would be a good fit. And all you would need to do is apply for that extra funding through your crowdfunding campaign kind of admin, through the dashboard, we call it. It's a very straightforward application. I'd recommend around 10 to 15 minutes per application is an okay amount of time. What you will find is a lot of the information you're asked for will be reflected in your project page and also should be accessible to you. So it'd be things like a bit more about your organization, maybe some information about members of the committee, so directors, for example, contact information, and then more of a deep dive into your project itself. The best thing to do, you can auto save that application. I would also recommend having some Word document somewhere saved, which has got all of these kind of answers backed up so that you can essentially copy and paste into the relevant applications that you're hoping to apply for. You can always look at an application form before you start that process of actually inputting anything. So you can take a look at those questions, go away, speak to your fellow volunteers or committee, whoever that might be, make sure that you're collating all of that information, and then should be about a 15-minute process to actually submit that application. So let's say that you've submitted an application for the Creating Opportunities Fund with Sport NI. You've been approved, and now is the time to go live with your crowdfunding campaign and start bringing in those donations. Once you've launched your campaign and you are sharing your project link with your network and bringing in those donations to your page, you will have a milestone to work towards in order to release the Sport Northern Ireland funding to your page. You need to raise 25% of your initial target remember, you set your target, okay? You're in complete control of how much money you need to raise. You need to raise 25% of that from 25 unique supporters. So that's 25 individuals making a donation to your campaign page. Once you've hit that first milestone, you will see a pledge from Sport NI land on your page, and all of a sudden, the amount you've raised has shot up towards your target. At that point, you want to use that as momentum to go back out to your crowd and your network around you and say, look, we've got this pledge from Sport Northern Ireland on our page. Now we all need to work together so that we can hit 100% of our target and secure that funding from Sport NI. So you've got your first milestone to focus on, and then you need to be driving towards that target. Once you've hit 100%, you've secured all of the money that you've raised from your crowd, and you have secured that Sport NI pledge as well. If you still have time left live on your campaign, you might consider adding a stretch target, which is an additional goal to work towards so that your supporters can see that actually there is a little bit more that they could do to help you. And that stretch target might include things like marketing of the project, or the things that wouldn't necessarily be what you need to get the project off the ground and happening, but would really elevate the project going forward. So that's the wish list, if you like, can become your stretch target. But it's always a good idea to set that so your supporters can see that actually there is a little bit more that they could do to help you whilst your project is live. So do consider that as well when you're setting your target. Is there an additional goal that you could be reaching for? So this comes up a lot in terms of how people can connect effectively with their supporters. And what it comes down to really is understanding your audience. And one of the ways that you can do that is to create a network map. So actually breaking up your crowd or your network of people around you in your community into bite-sized chunks. So you're going to split up the people that you know into all of these different categories. So you'll have friends and family, you'll have existing members, so that could be club members, you'll have sports clubs and organizations within the community, so that's going to be other clubs and other organizations. You will have your social media platforms, so Facebook, maybe Instagram, X, TikTok, whatever works for you, but there will be an audience there for you to tap into. When we're talking about partners, that could be business sponsorship who are already in partnership with you. It could be suppliers if you have a clubhouse and you offer drink, food. It could be partnering organizations that come and maybe hire your space and use your space. And then you've got other groups. So that could be things like schools. Oh, sorry, we've got community and schools there. So other groups could be networking groups within your community. It could be people who are like the business chambers of commerce, for example, that kind of thing that you might have within your community. And then the wider community at large and schools. Schools can be really pivotal when it comes to raising for physical activity. The chances are some of the pupils maybe even use your facilities or are club members. The teachers themselves may also be members or committee members. Utilize the networks that already exist around you and have people within those networks that can kind of spread the message. You want to start close to the project at the beginning. So when you start promoting this, reach out to friends and family. Make sure that you are donating to your own campaign page. Make sure that your friends are, your family are, your committee members, your trustees, and then build that to club members, build that to participants. Beyond that, you can then start really ramping up the promotion to these other groups within this network map. People are more likely to support a project that already has a little bit of support from people that are close to the project itself than to look at a project and see nothing's been raised, and they probably don't want to be the first one to part with their money because they're not sure that it's actually very credible, as it's not got much of a support from those that are actually going to benefit from it in the first place. So do think tactically about the start of your promotion being very close to the project and then building upon that message the more support that you get. Use all of the available channels that you have. So face-to-face is great. Nick had a brilliant example of that. Bring people together in one room, maybe host a launch event saying, this is about to launch, or launch it on that day and actually get donations in whilst people are in that face-to-face event. Have some QR codes and things. You can run events throughout the course of your campaign. Face-to-face is brilliant. Posters, leaflets, social media, of course, is wonderful. Newsletters, emails, WhatsApp groups. The way that you would normally communicate with people, do not change that. Don't think if I send one email out to everybody on this contacts list, it's going to magically happen. It's too generic. You want to think about your audience and how you tailor the message and tailor the promotion to each of those little groups within your network. Think about what would make them donate. Is it the reward? Do you have a certain package as a reward aimed at schools? Make sure you include that in your promotion. When you're speaking with the local business community, think about how they could support you. So that comes down to those calls to action of donate to the campaign, share with your networks. Can you offer a reward? Could you fundraise on our behalf? That's 4 different things that people can get behind you with. It's a lot easier to have that conversation with those 4 different options than to say, please give me your money over and over and over again. So make sure that you're using all of those different options and all of the different channels, and make sure you're keeping it fresh as well. People will soon get tired of "we're raising money" as a message. Think about the things that are happening with the club or the organization generally. You know, did you have a really exciting match at the weekend? Make that your focus for your promotion, and then link it back to the crowdfunding campaign. Keep it people-centered. If you've got brilliant characters as part of the club or organization, you know, champion them. Focus on human interest stories, and that's going to resonate with your supporters more than "we're crowdfunding, here's the link," repeated over the duration of the campaign. So keep it fresh. Okay, I have mentioned our other funding partners as well. This is just a snapshot of a few of the partners that we have on board at the moment. Do head over to our live funds page and make sure that you take a look to see if there might be anybody that could support you alongside Sport Northern Ireland. We do see partners hand in hand make pledges onto project pages. So do apply for all of the funds that you could be eligible for, sorry. Okay, now when it comes to telling your story, and you'll see this on Nick's page, keeping things really visual is important. So making sure that you've got some great images of what it is that you do as an organization, including people, making sure you're showcasing your community impact. Those are really strong messages to resonate with people beyond your participants, beyond people that engage with your sport or physical activity. That will land with the community at large. So make sure you've got that on there. There is a really great template that we've created to help you tell your story. So when you sign up to Crowdfunder UK, you will be triaged into our platform depending on the answers that you give us. So make sure that you're selecting a donation and rewards based crowdfunding campaign and that you are focusing on sport. That will make sure you have access to our template, and it will prompt you to put in the right information in the relevant places. So let us know who you are, tell us a bit about your club or organization, upload your image. Please make sure you take the upload image here prompt out of your page. We see it happen a lot, that we've actually got little upload your image here's on people's pages. Make sure you clear that off. And also feel free to change up those headers as well. Rather than "who are we," you might just have the title of your club, or, you know, a bit about us or our history. Personalize it, but use that template to make sure you're capturing the relevant information on there. I've mentioned a few times different audiences. When creating your page, think about speaking to your existing members, so people that know you, know everything about the club or organization, know about the history, know about the great things you do in the community and why this project is important. However, also weave in amongst that a message and a narrative to people who might not know who you are. They might not have realized that you're actually a charity, or that you actually run in a not-for-profit way, and that you raise money and you do these great things for the community. So make sure you're speaking to those 2 different audiences in everything that you do, from the project page to your promotion as well. And get inventive with those rewards. So you've got things on here like a website sponsor. You know, be somebody who's got their logo on the website. You've got a self-assessment tax return. Woohoo! How exciting is that? But people need it. You know, it's something that a local accountant or local bookkeeper has been able to offer. It's their skill sets. They do it day to day. They're an expert in their field and they want to be able to help the campaign. And for the self-employed people within the community, that is a bargain. They're saving £50 and they know that their self-assessment for that year is in safe hands. They're going to need to do it anyway. And this way, it's incentivizing them to actually purchase that kind of service, if you like, through your campaign. So think about exciting offers. Also think about things that people might need. You've got a towing vehicle sponsor here. That's great. You've got mocktail shots. So for you've got people offering shots for £3, non-alcoholic shots, I might add. So that's wonderful. That's fairly easy to kind of create and be accessible to lots and lots of people. And then choosing the name for one of our boats. So somebody gets to actually name the boat for this particular project. People love to feel like they've got something unique. People love to feel that they're having something special just for them. So giving them the opportunity to name something or have their name on the wall of the clubhouse or cut the ribbon or come to the VIP event that you're going to be holding for all of the people that have donated X amount of money to the crowdfunder. Think about what you have within your capacity to deliver as an organization that hopefully doesn't cost you the earth to do, but can just be something that's quite quirky and unique. And then reach out to your local communities as well and make sure that you are sourcing some of those more kind of business centered or skill set centered rewards too. We've talked a bit about fundraising on your behalf, and this is a wonderful example of a recent project that have had people fundraising for them. So you can become a multiplier project. It's something that you can request through our support team, and they will switch this on as a function for you. And I am yet to find a Sport NI project that has done this. So this is my call to action for all of you on the call, is to consider being a multiplier project and actually setting some kind of fundraising call to action for your community, because I would love to actually change this slide to a Sport NI focused multiplier project, please. So this is me doing a call to action for all of you. So the way that this works is people can set up their own fundraising pages. It all links directly to your main page. They can then populate that page with images, text. They can make it personal to their particular fundraising challenge. And all of their supporters and all of the amount of money that they raise funnels onto your main project page. So it's a great way to hit that first milestone and bring in those 25 supporters. It's a brilliant way to ramp up the money being raised towards your target. And it can help you to access other networks that you might not already have access to. It can empower members of your community to feel as if they're part of this with you and in collaboration are helping to raise the money themselves. And you can see here that you've had people doing lots of different swim events, because this is for a surf lifesaving club. So you've had people taking on swimming challenges and swimming huge distances. There's a 70k swim here. It's a massive achievement. And that person will have had support from their networks as part of this challenge. So whether you set a challenge yourself or just incentivize people to actually go out there and do it as a bit of a call to action, it's a brilliant way for the community to feel part of this journey with you and give them ownership of some of the fundraising. So I highly recommend it. We've got a huge amount of support to help you at every step of the way. So we have webinars such as this. We run a weekly Q&A drop-in session. Again, I'll share the links to these. If you have any questions, you can always pop along. They're just a virtual session hosted over Zoom as a meeting. You can meet other project owners. You can ask any questions you have about crowdfunding or any of the funds themselves. And it's a brilliant way to get some peer-to-peer support and learn a little bit more. We've got some wonderful online learning and guides. I will share a guide on how to crowdfund for your sports organisation as part of the follow-up email. Our knowledge hub is absolutely jam-packed, full of lots of hints and advice and guides on how to do every single step of this successfully. As you come through our system as a sports project, you will receive tailored emails to signpost you in the right direction to make sure you're getting as much help and support as possible. And we have a wonderful customer support team who have written all of our help centre. So there's loads of FAQs and troubleshooting guides in there. Do check there for any questions that you might have, that you might need technical support. Failing that, you can always contact our customer experience or customer support team and they will help you as well. and you have a live project dashboard where you can monitor every single aspect of your campaign, apply for extra funding, extend your project, download any relevant reports that you might need. So do make friends with that as well. And that brings us to our Q&A session. I appreciate there was a lot of content there, so thank you for absorbing that along the way. Hopefully you feel a little bit more confident about the process. Do please feel free to put any questions into the chat. I'd like to welcome Conleth and Craig back onto the screen, and we shall dive into our chat box and Q&A and see what we've had coming through. Hi, both of you. Thank you for sticking around.
No problem.
Fabulous. Okay, so I'll give everyone a few minutes just to pop a few questions in there. In terms of, this is one from me, if somebody has received funding from a previous fund with Sport Northern Ireland, can they apply for the Creating Opportunities fund now, or is there any kind of restrictions on timings or the amount that they have received?
Craig, I can answer it if you want. Go on ahead.
No, you're okay. No, the good thing is, Zoe, no, there's not. This is a completely new program. The only thing that we do stipulate is that it has to be for a new or additional program. So, for example, if you applied successfully through Activate for, in Nick's case, for a new storage box, for example, then we couldn't provide funding for another storage box. So it needs to be new or additional. It's something that we haven't funded previously.
Amazing, thank you. So yes, everybody on this call, if they might have received money before, please do apply for the new fund. And especially Nick, you mentioned you might want to crowdfund again. How do you feel? Do you think you might be popping in an application for the Creating Opportunities Fund?
Oh, well, I think we'll certainly consider it for sure.
Not to put you on the spot at all, Nick.
No.
Okay, so in terms of what you would like to see from potential project pages or projects themselves, is there any things that you would like project owners to be considering when they're putting in their application? I know that you've had really great success in terms of supporting projects in Sport Northern Ireland. We've seen some brilliant campaigns come through. Is there things that you would advise that project owners consider doing before they put in their application in terms of the actual project page themselves? I'll direct that at Craig if possible.
Yeah, no problem. Well, ideally just go back to what Nick was saying as well before the sessions actually started around the similarities between this and Activate. It is similar, but it is not identical. So there are some changes. So again, we would advise people to make sure they read the guidance notes before they submit their application. Now, I've submitted in the chat box there the web address for Creating Opportunities. We always advise that people contact us before they submit their application. Now, we are here to help and guide them along the way, along with yourselves. I know both of yourselves, Zoe and Chloe, are extremely good at providing assistance. One of the main changes we're looking for with this program would be going back to what you were saying around the rewards. With this program, with Activate, people were very good at including what we term internal rewards, such as club jerseys, hats, scarves, and things like that, which are all fantastic, but it didn't really involve the community. So we're trying to get more focus on getting the community involved, and therefore we've included that you need to include a minimum of 2 community-based rewards with your application. And they go back to the ones that you were showing there earlier around, afternoon teas, speaking to the local butcher, just being as inventive as you can to make sure you get those 2 community-based rewards.
Amazing, thanks Craig. And it's a brilliant kind of talking point as well. It's pushing people out of their comfort zone, which I know is really, really hard. But I think what we've found with project owners is once they start having those conversations, it's actually really rewarding to see who might come out of the woodwork to actually offer a reward or support them in some way. And that can really help develop those kind of conversations going forward. Did you find that, Nick, when you were kind of approaching people?
Yeah, for sure. Really, we just asked members if they were involved with the local business or knew somebody who ran a local business. Could they speak to them and see if they would be interested in offering something that, you know, would then go on the page. So, you know, I think anybody that was approached, you know, was happy to do it. So, and then some people, you know, who hadn't been specifically approached, but once the project had gone live, you know, we hadn't maybe thought of, but they were involved with businesses, and then they offered support just on the back of seeing the project page.
That's really good to hear. I love that. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. We're coming to the top of the hour, so we'll wrap it up for today. If anyone has any follow-on questions from this session, please do book onto a Q&A with ourselves at Crowdfunder, or get in touch with Sport NI themselves and talk through any questions that you might have about accessing the Creating Opportunities Fund. We are all here to support you to do this successfully and ultimately raise the money that you need to get your project off the ground. Thank you so much, Nick and Craig and Conleth, for joining me today. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. We wish you all the best of luck with your crowdfunding journeys and raising that all-important funds for your projects. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.